I'm Strikadelic, but you can call me Ludo. Welcome to my hyperfixation diary. First things first, I am painfully aware that I look like the queer-coded villain in a French-Canadian holiday movie where the hero is either a child, a dog, or both. It's just how the vibe turned out today. My shirt collar won't lay flat, and sometimes you just gotta commit to the bit. Alors, je déteste Noël, caliste tabarnak! That aside, hello everybody! I've got some new fragrance lovers in my subscriber count, and I just figured I would introduce myself really quick. So my name is Ludo, I am a transgender man, my pronouns are he, him, I am smack dab in the middle of my 20s, I live in Canada, and I am neurodivergent. The neurodivergent part is relevant because my special interests are makeup and fragrance. I have been reviewing beauty products on the web since 2014, and I worked in both retail beauty stores and as a freelance makeup artist for about 4 years. My fragrance preferences tend to lean more unisex to feminine because a lot of my scent memories took place at a time where I still identified as female. I've been wearing and enjoying fragrances since middle school, but I really started to explore and collect fragrances around September of 2020. My channel here is about a 50-50 content split of makeup and fragrance, and I hope you'll subscribe or have already and that you'll enjoy your time here. Thank you so much for being here and watching. Today I'm going to be sharing my top winter fragrances with you, so sit down with a warm cup of whatever the heck you want. I've got some matcha and honey right here, and let's just do this thing. It took me a while to decide which fragrance I wanted to start this video off with, and I ended up choosing a new addition to my collection. I've only had this for about a month, and it was a blind buy, but it actually brought me to tears the first time I smelled it. So this is Le Participe Passe by Serge Lutens, and my best way to describe this scent is that it's the scent of my 5th birthday party. Early February baby, by the way. Aquarius, as if you couldn't tell already. I will tell you the actual notes before getting into my description. So the top notes on this are Artemisia and Bergamot. The middle notes are black pepper and fruity notes, whatever that means, Fragrantica. And then the base notes are Egyptian balsam, resins, caramel, cumin, leather, and patchouli. Fragrantica's top accords for this scent are fresh spicy, caramel, and amber. So for me, I have a couple cousins and we're all born like a couple days apart but on different years. So as children, our parents would host like a big joint birthday party for the 3 of us, and the whole like family would be invited. It was usually at my one aunt's house because she had a log cabin on the lake, and then they could send us out tobogganing. So to me, this smells like coming in from tobogganing in the cold to the scent of the crackling fireplace and the vanilla cake baking in the oven. It smells like my grandfather's hugs after he... God. Sorry, I swear I'm not doing this on purpose. It smells like my grandfather's hugs after he'd been out smoking vanilla cigarillos. It smells like the patchouli oil. Fuck. I shouldn't have started with this one. It smells like the patchouli oil that my aunts wore. They're twins. They each wore patchouli oil on their wrists, and it smells like that kind of whiffing past my nose as they would put a slice of cake in front of me. You know when you do certain like yoga poses and you get that like emotional release where you just can't stop crying? I think that's what just happened. So to conclude, this is kind of a complicated fragrance. I don't think I would describe it as like a beginner fragrance or even a crowd pleaser by any means. Like, I love it, but I feel like that's very specific to my own scent memory. To describe how the scent actually wears, you get that Artemisia in the opening and it smells spicy. You get a bit of the cumin too, actually, on that first spray, and even off the bottle, I'm getting a bit of the cumin. So that smells like cooking spice, which is something that not everybody wants to smell like. But then, as it wears, I wore this for about 7 hours, and the whole experience, you kind of get a bit of smokiness after, and then it dies down to this caramel with a bit of that leather, and that part is really nice. I like the opening because of the scent memory, but I think if I wasn't associating it with something, I don't know if I would be able to get past the opening because it is quite strong and it's a statement, essentially. I don't think this leans particularly masculine or feminine. If anything, the opening leans a little bit more masculine, and then the dry down leans more traditionally sweet and feminine. So that's really interesting. It doesn't smell cologne-y, but it also doesn't smell perfumey. It's just a really interesting piece in my collection. Like, this is art to me. So I obviously have an emotional attachment to this bottle of perfume and a time where my family actually got along. But I would recommend this to anybody looking for something just really new, interesting, something you haven't smelled before. Okay, let's go for something a little less emotionally charged next. We're going to talk about Memoirs of a Trespasser by Imaginary Authors. This was my top fragrance of 2021. You can see I've put quite a dent in it. And this is a woody, dry vanilla without a hint of powderiness. And I love how Imaginary Authors does a woody note. It is one of my favorite things. And this can almost be a little bit much at times. I don't really consider fragrances to be daytime or nighttime. Like, I'll just wear them whenever I want. I certainly wear this whenever I want. But I do find myself reaching for it more often at night now. I'll usually reach for Memoirs of a Trespasser when I'm wearing something like this and going out to the karaoke bar. When I say it's a bit much, like, it's strong on you, but the sillage isn't overpowering. You're not going to like offend people around you, but anybody who gets close to you will smell this quite strongly. So the notes on this are actually listed on the back of the bottle. I love that they do that. So this is Madagascar vanilla, guaiac wood, myrrh. I love a myrrh note. Just something about it. I love it. Bergamot, benzoin resin, ambrette seeds, and oak barrels. So while this is a woodsy vanilla, and there are tons of woodsy vanillas out there, I do still find this one unique, at least in my collection, because of its brusque dryness. I definitely pick up some sort of like a clay accord. It smells like you're sunbaking some terracotta while you're sitting on top of an oak barrel and licking French vanilla ice cream off of the edges of your lips. It has been a pleasure to revisit as the weather gets colder. Next up, we have a fragrance from Maison Margiela Replica, but it's not the one you think it is. I told you, I'm an Aquarius. I have to be a little different, a little quirky. So this is Whispers in the Library. And it's another nostalgia bomb for me because this is the first full bottle I ever picked out for myself. Working in beauty, I had been handed down bottles of perfume or like travel sprays in the past from friends and coworkers, but this is the first fragrance that I actually like researched, tested, and then went to go pick up a full bottle of. The first time I ever heard of Fragrantica was when I was looking this up, and I credit it with really getting me into perfume. I have a soft spot for Maison Margiela Replica. So Whispers in the Library is really soft and balanced. I get a lot of that tonka, bit of the woodiness. The black pepper is definitely present, and it's a pinch powdery, but the vanilla base note kind of brings it back into edible territory for me. To me, it kind of smells like old books, but mostly it smells like a combination of two things. The first is drinking a cup of vanilla oolong tea. And then the second is right at the very end of my sniff, right at the edge of my nose. I get a little bit of a twang, that same little twang that I get when I am in a hot cedar sauna. And I'm curious if anybody feels the same on that last bit, because I seem to be the only one among people I've spoken to who have tried this that think that. So Whispers in the Library is really soft and romantic and sweet, but not too sweet. And I can see anybody with those soft romantic qualities, regardless of their gender, their age, wearing this and liking it. I can see this being a good winter crowd pleaser. A woody vanilla is generally a safe bet in that respect. But this one is still a little bit off the beaten path with that black pepper. And it is alluring, it's intriguing, but it still doesn't take itself too seriously. It's not like too dark and mysterious to wear wherever. This is also just a really comforting scent. It feels like a hug from somebody you've been pining over for ages. Before I forget, the notes on here are woody notes and cedar, pepper, vanilla, and tonka bean. Next up, A classic. Where would I be without a good, linear, cheapy vanilla? This is Fresh Cream by Philosophy. Fresh Cream is a very lactonic, milky, sweet vanilla, and it is so rich. When you smell it, it feels like you are drinking it. It's basically the perfume version of sweetened condensed milk. It doesn't have the longest wear time ever, but this is currently the contender for most layered perfume in my collection this year. It's kind of my secret weapon when I want to wear a perfume that I really love the dry down of, but something in the opening kind of bugs me. It's either like too aromatic or too spicy. I will spray this on underneath that other fragrance. This will last through the opening and sweeten it. And then after like 2 hours, it just pieces out and I'm free to enjoy the dry down of my other perfume. I know I'm not necessarily reading off the notes for every single fragrance, but there are some where I feel it's important. And Chergui, I believe it's pronounced Chergui, by Serge is one of those. I used to hate a tobacco note. I would not try anything with a tobacco note because I smelled, what was it? Elizabeth and James Nirvana Amethyst had a tobacco note and some sort of like floral. It was lilac or something. And I love lilac. But good Lord, the combination of that was offensive to me. It was very offensive. It's probably the worst perfume I've ever smelled. And that one's discontinued, so whatever. Let's talk about this guy. So the notes on this are tobacco leaf, honey, amber, hay, like a bale of hay, incense, sandalwood, iris, musk, and rose. I don't know how they came up with that, but it's so good. It's just that sandalwood and rose and tobacco and hay just drenched in golden, dripping honey. And the incense wafts above. It's so beautiful. This is another one where I just think that it's art. It's unfortunate because I've really disliked some of the other perfumes that have come out of the Serge Lutens house. Like anything fruity that they do is a little off to me. Anything super floral that they do, I just find kind of boring. But god damn, can they do an amber-based sweet scent. One last thing. If you have Chergui and you have not layered it with a vanilla yet, particularly Madeira by Omnia, but any will do. Do it. Be still my beating heart. Now for something a little different. I actually have a floral to talk about. Yes, I do. And this is Flora Mortis by All Saints. I wear this all through the fall and winter. I wear it through the spring too, honestly. This is just such a beautiful floral. It's a bit powdery. The only notes I could find for this on either their website or Fragrantica were amberwood, black pepper, and orchid. I get more violet and iris from this personally than I do orchid, which is fine by me because I don't really like orchid. But this is definitely a purple floral, but it's like a candied purple floral. No, not even candied. It's like deep purple petals. They're velvety, they're plush, and they're dusted with a hint of brown sugar. I like the price point on these too. This is an 100 ml bottle and it ran me $99 full retail. The caps are made out of concrete. It's just a really nice bottle. You know, you got that little picture in the back. I love this guy. Can I just say quickly how much I love filming fragrance videos? It's like it's show and tell, but it's always my turn. And next up for my show and tell is Vanille Insensee by Atelier Cologne. Except that either really Italian or Canadian. Atelier Cologne. So yes, Vanille Insensee. You've probably heard of this one if you like vanilla, if you've ever liked vanilla, if you've ever walked into a Sephora, if you've ever made a Sephora order and gotten a sample of this. I mean, you've tried it. You've tried it, right? You've tried Vanille Insensee, right? It's pretty good, but it's a different kind of vanilla than the other vanillas that I have been talking about. This is a cold, unsweetened kind of vanilla. It's not my absolute favorite, but I still want to recommend it because there is one specific instance which I will always wear this, and that is if I am going to a restaurant. This is the perfect first date fragrance for if you're going to a restaurant. This is relatively inoffensive to most people I meet. And I find it doesn't interfere with the scent or taste of my food or drink if I should like catch a whiff of my wrist as I'm lifting my fork up to my face. That might just be a sensory thing for me because I have a very sensitive nose, obviously, and I've got sensory issues because of the neurodivergence. But yeah, this is still a really good rec. I don't know if you can get Atelier in the US or Canada anymore. I think they have pulled out of North America, but there is still a site where you can get, I don't think Vanille Insensee, but the other Atelier scents are still available on there. It's called Fragrance By, and I will link it down below. They are a reseller, but everything I've ever purchased from them has been authentic. Let's get some designer love up in here. This is the only one, Perfumes by Dolce and Gabbana. I go in waves of liking and disliking this fragrance. I'll either be like, oh, I don't want to wear that right now, or I'll be totally obsessed with it. And at the current moment, I find it pretty damn seductive. It's quite rich and I feel confident when I wear it. I feel empowered. I don't love to say that a certain fragrance makes me feel sexy or makes me feel like a lady killer, but I mean, this doesn't not make me feel like a lady killer. I don't know if I've ever even read the notes on this. I'm looking at them now. The top notes are violet. I love violet, orange, and bergamot. I get that. The mid notes, coffee, pear, iris, orange blossom, and rose. So we're getting a little bit of that almost YSL black opium DNA. This, I guess, was kind of their rival to that. With the orange blossom and the coffee in particular and the florals. And then the base notes on this one, which I find distinguish it from black opium, which I see as more of a floral, and this is more of like a gourmand floral. Anyway, the base notes are caramel, vanilla, and patchouli. If I'm really trying my hardest, I can pick up each individual note in there, except for maybe... No, I get the pear. This is a really well-blended designer fragrance. I find that most of what sticks out is that violet, orange blossom, coffee, and caramel. It's like that nice square. Those are the corners of the square. And then everything else is just kind of sitting in the middle, if that makes sense. It's a really nice, sexy fragrance. So the next fragrance is one that I actually did get out of a clearance bin for $20, but it was at a Shoppers Drug Mart, so it's legit. And this is Sweet by Lolita Lempicka. And this is so good. What a find. Notes on this one are sour cherry and sugar in the top, cocoa, iris, and angelica in the mid, and musk and cashmere wood in the base. This is a beautiful, like sweet, tart, sour, juicy, candied cherry. It gives me everything I wanted from Tom Ford Lost Cherry, which is more of like a cherry pie scent. This is that like sour, zingy cherry. It's really nicely done. And isn't this bottle the freaking cutest? We're breezing through the next three because I have to leave the house soon, but I cannot leave here without mentioning Cape Heartache by Imaginary Authors. This is the quintessential evergreen tree scent in my collection. So the notes on this one are Douglas fir, pine resin, western hemlock, vanilla leaf, strawberry, old growth, and mountain fog. This smells like standing in a perfect ring of cedar trees. It smells like it's just this beautiful mix of spruce and pine and macerated cedar sprigs. Like, you know when you pinch apart a cedar sprig and it gets kind of juicy and sticky on your hands? That's what this smells like. But you also smell that dry bark, that dry wood. Again, I love how Imaginary Authors does a woody note. You get that hint of sweet strawberry when you wear it. It doesn't last too long. This is more of your traditional woodsy scent. It's just really lush and rich and sophisticated yet inviting. And I love the artwork that Imaginary Authors puts on their bottles. It makes me treasure the pieces that much more. So I think I have 2 or 3 fragrances left to go, and I had to have an OG in the lineup. This is one of the fragrances I wore all through high school. I had 2 that I wore. I had one that I wore on days where I wanted to feel more feminine, and one I wore on days where I wanted to feel more masculine, and this was the more masculine of my 2 fragrances. I wore it exclusively out of samples that I received in Sephora orders, by the way. I was very, like, sparing with my application. Now I have a bottle of it. We'll do a little spray for old time's sake. Ooh, Yeah, okay, so the notes on this are top notes orange and grapefruit, middle notes pepper, pelargonium, and flint. And the base notes are vetiver, cedar, patchouli, and benzoin. This just brings me back in a good way when I was like playing around with masculine presentation and just really discovering myself. It's a musky, woody citrus, and there are a lot of musky, woody citruses on the market, but this is the one for me, baby. It's powerful though, nearly to a fault, so be careful with this guy. Last but not least, I have a layering combo that has gotten me a lot of compliments. And I used to have a bone to pick with the compliments people. You know the compliments people in the frag community. They're on Reddit, they're on Fragrantica. I wear perfume because I like it, and I'll apply a certain one if I want to feel a certain way or smell a certain thing or smell like a certain thing that day. But I don't wear it for other people's perception of me. I don't really think about that, and maybe that makes me like not like other boys. Listen, I've already got issues with how people perceive me. I am visibly queer, and whenever I talk to somebody in person, it becomes clear after a couple sentences that there is something loose up here. So I don't think wearing a crowd pleaser perfume is going to magically make people like me more. But that's going to be the only time I rant about compliments on my channel, because compliments ultimately do feel good, and I'm not going to shame anybody for just wanting that boost of confidence. So with all that being said, lately I have been layering two of my travel sprays, and those are Bee by Ellis Brooklyn and Autumn Vibes by Maison Margiela Replica. And when Autumn Vibes was released, a lot of people were surprised because they figured it would be more sweet, almost have like a bit of a pumpkin pie spice sort of thing to it, or a clove. But no, it kind of just smells like dead, wet leaves in a good way. It just rained. You get that petrichor like just after the rain smell from Autumn Vibes, and you're walking home over those dead, wet leaves. And they're not crunching because they're wet, but they're kind of slippery. And your toes are getting a little cold. You didn't layer up your socks, but you're almost home, and you know you have a fun or relaxing activity waiting for you at home, and no responsibilities for the rest of the night. It's like a Friday evening gloomy autumn walk. And then we have Bee, which when this was announced, I went nuts. I really, really wanted it. And when I purchased it, I was not disappointed. It is pretty much an exact dupe of MAC Naked Honey, if you ever smelled that. That's a throwback. I had that shower gel as a preteen because my great aunt worked for MAC at the time and just ended up giving it to me. So this really brings me back. But I swear, I promise I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. This has like bran and oat and cinnamon in it with the honey. So it's very like honey dessert sort of smell. And it's not very anchored in anything. It is just very sticky sweet. It's dripping down, but there's nothing to stop it. When you pair the two, Autumn Vibes grounds Bee. They kind of go like this, if that makes sense. They smell so good together. You get the damp, you get the sweet, but you also get the earthiness. And the earthiness pairs so well with that like oat bran note from Bee. I've gotten a lot of compliments. Actually, I've gotten a compliment every time I've worn this pairing. So for you compliments people, you're welcome. You know what, guys? That's it for me today. If you have a fragrance picked out for your holiday evening of choice, like Hanukkah, Christmas, New Year's, Chinese New Year, whichever, let me know what it is below if you have one picked out, because I think I'm going to be wearing Le Participe Passe to my family dinner. And then I might wear Byredo Pulp, because I just have a little sample of it, on Christmas Eve itself. If you enjoyed me rambling like a maniac about my perfumes, please give this video a like and maybe consider subscribing if you haven't already. And I wish I could ramble a little bit longer, but this French-Canadian queer-coded movie villain has some pond hockey tournaments to go ruin. Have a good day, guys. See you later. There's more where that came from, so go ahead and subscribe if you want to see more of whatever the heck that was.